Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury, the book about Donald Trump that has made these kind of splashy headlines all across the US, he's coming to a bit of criticism. And some of the criticism comes from the thing of, hey dude, some of this just doesn't seem to be true. Like some of this seems to be fabricated or made up. Now, Wolff has defended his book and has defended the book from the critics. But there's a catch. Wolff himself made the point that some of the stories in the book contradict one another. Now that's pretty amazing. It's like getting to the matter of the truth was kind of besides the point. I just put all the shit in the book even when I know that the stories contradicted one another. Okay. That being said, there are elements in the book that are problematic. Now, the pages or the chapters of the book that I read of this, I made 2 points when I did a video on this. That A, the election night thing sounds about right because I didn't believe that Donald Trump thought he was going to win. I thought Donald Trump thought he was going to lose, just like the rest of the public thought Donald Trump was going to lose. That's the first point. So that part of the book made sense to me. That resembled Donald Trump. It's like, yeah, that's the image of the guy. That's what it looked like. When he ran his campaign as if he was going to lose. The guy wouldn't even loan his own campaign $25 million, even though he's supposed to be a billionaire. Not to mention, he wouldn't show his tax returns. It's like, what's the point of showing my tax returns if I'm going to lose this election? So that's the first point. The second point, I made the point of saying, well, wait a minute. There's no way to corroborate whether or not the guy's senile. Like, so one of the assertions, or part of the assertions in the book was that Donald Trump repeats something over and over again as if he completely forgot the fact that he said it the very first time. I made the point that there was no way to corroborate that. There was no way to know it. It sounded like they were taking a shot at him. Come to find out, other people kind of have had these points also, saying, wait a minute. Some of this stuff can't be corroborated. Some of this stuff just seems outright untrue. So let's talk about the elements of this that were somewhat untrue and that were being challenged. This is CNBC News. Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury. Some of the facts just don't stack up. Michael Wolff is a total loser who made up stories to sell this really boring and untruthful book, Donald Trump says about the author of Fire and Fury. Now, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Donald Trump is not the person who you go to when you're looking for integrity and honesty. So Donald Trump saying this doesn't really mean much of anything. That being said, just because Donald Trump has a flagrant history of lying through his teeth doesn't mean that everything he says is wrong. So, in this case, what he's saying has been corroborated by other people who don't necessarily have a dog in the hunt in this way. Meaning, it looks like there's certain parts of this book that are just wrong. That are just outright wrong. Let's take a look at this. Some parts, I guess my point is, there seem to be some parts that are true, some parts that are false. Let's take a look. Come on. Good. He's not only challenged he's not the only one to challenge the assertions of the tell-all book, which has shaken the White House with accounts and quotes from current and former Trump administration officials. New York Times White House correspondent Maggie Haberman and several other journalists and Washington insiders do so as well. I believe parts of it, and then there are other parts that are factually wrong, Haberman said Friday on CNN. He believes in larger truths and narratives, so he creates a narrative that is notionally true, that's conceptually true. The details are often wrong. Understand what she's saying. Understand what she's saying. She's trying to say the tone of the book, meaning the overarching message of this guy is incompetent, is true. The facts and the details for some of the things that he's talking about in the book are false. She's saying from a standpoint of tone, yes, this makes sense. This is the clown that we know as the President of the United States. By the same token, the elements of the book that he's talking about in some of these cases just happen to be factually incorrect. Let's keep going. In one example, she pointed to the book where Rupert Murdoch called Trump a fucking idiot, but in a column, Wolff quoted Murdoch as saying Trump was a fucking moron. She also noted that Wolff said CNN had published an unsubstantiated dossier compiled by former British spy Christopher Steele about Trump's alleged dealings with Russians. The dossier, however, was actually published by BuzzFeed. That's one fact check away from getting it right, she said. According to Vox.com, the book also claims that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's staff had rejected reconciliation meeting in August on the grounds that the senator was getting a haircut. At the time, Trump was furious with McConnell over the Senate's failure to repeal and replace Obamacare. McConnell's deputy chief of staff, Don Stewart, denied the report on Saturday. In another error, the book said Washington... Well, wait a minute. You can't say that's an error. I mean, the guy denied the report doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong just because the guy denied the report. You can't take what this guy is saying as the word of God. You have to have something else to corroborate that. Well, this is the guy. I can confirm this never happened. Neither the author nor Vox bothered to check. That's the first one. But let's take it with a grain of salt. Let's say the guy's right. Let's say that didn't happen. Let's give him that one. In another error, the book says Washington Post reporter Mark Berman was in Four Seasons restaurant the morning Ivanka Trump showed up for breakfast. Berman, however, said he wasn't there. Let's keep going. On Twitter, Trump claimed he authorized zero access to the White House for Wolf and never spoke to him for the book. In an interview on NBC's Today on Friday, Wolf insisted that he had spoken with Trump for the book. Whether he realized it was on record or not, I don't know. But it certainly was not off record, he said. My window into Donald Trump is pretty significant. Wolf also defended the book's accuracy. I work like every journalist works, so I have recordings, I have notes, he told Today Show. I am certain and absolutely in every way comfortable with everything that I've reported in this book. Now, just from a flat fact standpoint, that's not really the same thing of saying everything in this book is accurate. That's a different conversation. I am comfortable with everything in this book. I understand that you're comfortable with it. That's great. Is everything in the book true? And like I said, he already had said and admitted in the book itself that some of the stories in the book conflict with one another. And if those stories are conflicting, one of those stories have to be false. So to some degree, he's already admitted that not everything in the book is accurate. That being said, tonally, the picture that it paints, come on. I mean, this is the person that we see as the president of the United States. Like when you're looking at the 3-year-old, the speeches that look like they were scribbled in crayon by a 3-year-old, when you're looking at the things that the guy is saying, I mean, some of this stuff is just so shallow. It's beneath the office of the president. And yet, he's the president. So by definition, the stuff becomes presidential. Let's keep going. Yeah, let's keep going. I'll talk about it after. Others, including CNN Brian Stelter, noted a string of flattering stories Wolf had written in The Hollywood Reporter about Trump in June 2016, 5 months before the election, and about top aide Steve Bannon 2 weeks after the election, and Kellyanne Conway just after the inauguration. See, Wolf seems to have been warming up his sources for the book, Stelter said on Reliable Sources. Oh, that's interesting. Wolf concedes as much in the Today Show interview. I certainly said that what was ever necessary to get the story, he replied. When asked as it was flattered his way into the White House, I certainly said what was ever necessary to get the story, he replied, when asked if he had flattered his way into the White House. But he also fired back at Trump. My credibility is being questioned by a man who has less credibility than perhaps anyone who has ever walked the earth at this point would have said. The book set off journalistic feeding frenzy when word of its content surfaced Wednesday in The Guardian. Now, this is fascinating to me. They're saying that he wrote a bunch of flattering stories to the people in the White House, being of Trump, Kellyanne Conway, Steve Bannon. So they looked at him as, hey, this guy wrote flattering stories about us. Maybe he's not that bad. Maybe he's on our side. Maybe he's going to give us the benefit of the doubt. And he gets in office and he puts a dagger in Donald Trump. He's like, oh, thank you for letting me in the house, you asshole. Just to be on the good side. Yeah, this is fucking amazing. I didn't know journalists did that. Write a bunch of flattering stories to get in good with somebody only to put a knife in them later. That's fucking amazing. That was fucking amazing. The book quotes aides by name describing Trump's behavior as childlike and unbalanced. In one example, Bannon said the 2016 meeting at Trump Tower between the president and his eldest son and his Russian lawyer was treasonous and unpatriotic. Trump then lashed out at his former aide, saying Bannon had not. When Bannon lost his job, Bannon lost his mind. When Bannon was fired, Bannon lost his mind. Wolf 64, who has a reputation for arrogance, is a columnist for The Hollywood Reporter and has written for numerous publications. Fire and Fury Inside the Trump Administration is his 7th book. In reviewing Wolf's 2008 book, The Man Who Owns News Inside the Secret World of Rupert Murdoch, the late New York Times media columnist wrote, historically, one of the problems with Wolf's omniscience is that while he may know all, he gets some of it wrong. So that seems to be what we're dealing with. From a tonal standpoint or from an overarching standpoint, meaning I'm drawing a picture. This picture is of a cow. It's very clear that this picture is of a cow. It looks like a cow. It moves like a cow. But there are details of this picture, of this cow, that's wrong. Maybe this cow doesn't have a hoof. Maybe this cow is wearing a pair of Nikes. Maybe this cow doesn't have a tail. Instead, he has I don't know, he has something else. I'm just saying the character of the thing is correct, with the details, in some of the cases, being somewhat off. Does this change the entire contents of the book? No. Does the person that he described in the book look like and act like Donald Trump? Yes. It's not a situation where there's this, oh my God, this looks nothing like Donald Trump. It's more like, yeah, this is the incompetence I expected by looking at the campaign and looking at the person who's in that office. That being said, if you're going to write a book, and if you're going to do a hit piece, you should get it fucking right. Like, I don't like this thing of a journalist coming out, writing stories, and I gotta be honest, it's uncomfortable, this idea of him smoozing up to these people, making, being flattering and then turning around and putting a knife in them. It feels weird to me that a journalist is doing that. You should get your details right. Like, I understand that the contents, meaning the overarching thing, is probably right. Meaning, yeah, Donald Trump is probably childlike. And yeah, these people probably felt that way about Donald Trump. And yeah, I don't necessarily know if these people thought they were going to wreck it and if he was going to burn him in this way, putting all these quotes and attributing it directly to their sources. I have no idea. Bannon came out and apologized. So clearly, Bannon was one of the sources, and Bannon was quoted honestly or accurately. In some of the other cases, yeah, he might have gotten some of those cases wrong. I still say there are elements in this book that sound perfectly right. And it sounds like the people who are reviewing the book, the overarching content of it seems to be right. Unfortunately, he's getting some of his facts wrong. And when you get some of your facts wrong, it allows your particular book to be questioned and be picked apart. So yeah, I guess you take it like anything else. There's certain elements that are true, there's certain elements that are false. The author himself has owned up to the fact that there are certain stories that contradict each other, meaning not all of this book can be correct. That said, he says he stands by it, and even Haberman, who's looking at it, said the tone of it, meaning the overall arching story or narrative or the picture that this guy is painting is right, even though there are certain details that are missing or certain details that are wrong. So I will leave that up to you to make your own judgments. Personally, this looks like Trump to me. This looks like Trump to me. And like she said, some of the details may be wrong, the specifics. But the overarching narrative and the perspective of the people who were looking and interacting with Trump, who he was able to get quotes from and details from, it paints a particular picture of a man-child. And it just so happened that that man-child is the President of the United States. Like anything else, be skeptical of, I guess, of what you read. But by the same token, these people who are analyzing the book and who are pointing out issues that are wrong, like the specifics that are wrong, aren't necessarily challenging the overarching narrative and the overarching point that Wolf is trying to make, that a child has taken the presidency. So, that being said, if you're going to do something like that, you should get it right. You should get it right. Like, I don't like this thing with journalists, deciding to take somebody down. It's one thing if you just do a bit of work and it's accurate and it's true, and just by being accurate and true you end up kind of toppling a presidency or toppling a particular person who needs to be toppled in a particular part of authority. Going in it, writing a hit piece, and not necessarily caring about all of the details and the facts, come on, that's problematic. That's problematic, and it leaves you open to attack. So yes, overall, I probably believe what the person's trying to put out. And yes, also some of the details are wrong. Donald Trump saying that he never met the guy, never gave the guy access, I don't believe that shit at all. by the same token, it does seem that he smooths his way into interacting with Donald Trump and his entourage. And the first moment that he got when he could make a buck off of putting a knife in him, he took the opportunity to put a buck in putting a knife in him. So I will leave it at that. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks.